The gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Hice, is now recognized. Mr. Hice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I, along with many others, have consistently and forcefully condemned political violence by anyone of any kind, whether it happens here in the United States Capitol or anywhere else across our country. Law and order is critical for us to preserve a peaceful republic, and anyone breaking our laws should be held accountable. This is what we refer to as equal justice for all. Beginning under President Trump, the FBI and the Department of Justice worked hard, tirelessly, to investigate and prosecute those who were involved in criminal behavior and violence here at the Capitol on January 6th, as well they should have. But I'm troubled that reportedly dozens of individuals from the January 6th riots have been held without bond in solitary confinement for up to 23 hours a day. Even Senator Elizabeth Warren has said that solitary confinement is a form of punishment that is cruel and psychologically damaging. She went on and said that in relation to those involved in January 6th, that we're talking about people who haven't been convicted of anything yet. Even the ACLU expressed similar concerns, saying that solitary confinement is torture. Director Wray, you have mentioned a couple of times now some 500 plus prosecutions from January 6th. Your work in that regard we all appreciate. I'm curious, though, how many of those are in solitary confinement?
Congressman, I thank you for your appreciation for our work. I don't know the number that would be held under those conditions. That's a decision made by the court in conjunction with the Justice Department prosecutors. So I'm afraid I don't have that number or estimate for you.
So you have no idea how many are in solitary confinement. This is something that's being pretty well reported. I would think you would have some degree of knowledge and information. You're saying you don't know.
I don't keep up on the terms of confinement or detention.
Would you consider it standard operating procedure to hold Americans who have yet to stand trial to be held in solitary confinement?
I'm not sure I could say one way or the other on that. Certainly there are plenty of situations where that occurs. So it would have to depend on the circumstances of the particular case, and I do want to be very careful not to be commenting.
Well, there's a great deal of concern with this. Let me move on. I started by early talking about equal justice for all. Last summer, our nation was rocked by months of violence all across our country following the death of George Floyd. In fact, from May 26 to June 8th last year, Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots caused over $2 billion in property damage. It's estimated here at the Capitol, it was on January 6th, somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.5 million. The Major Cities Chiefs Association said that during the 10 weeks following George Floyd's death, there were 574 riots, declared riots, with violence and other criminal activity. That's 57 per week. Americans lost their lives. There were severe injuries, including over 2,000 law enforcement. And yet the Democratic Party to this day has yet to even hold a single hearing on the BLM and Antifa riots. It's stunning to me. Many of my Democratic colleagues pretend that the chaos never happened. Others promoted, actually, and encouraged it. And frankly, the left, along with the allies of the liberal media, pushed a false narrative that these were somehow peaceful protests, while we watched burned police stations, besieged courthouses, looted businesses, assaulted police officers, and on and on and on. And I'm concerned, Director Wray, that we are, all that somehow is resulting in a less than aggressive investigation, prosecution, and sentencing on the federal level. So I'm curious, how many individuals has the FBI investigated and or arrested regarding the riots that we all watched across our country last summer?
I can't give you the exact number, but I do know that we've had hundreds of investigations and hundreds of arrests. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that I share your concern about the violence and criminality that occurred over the summer. It was extremely serious activity. We used all the tools in our toolbox to pursue our joint terrorism task forces, treating it as a form of domestic terrorism as well. And in fact, last year, we had more anarchist violent extremist arrests than we'd had in the prior 3 years combined. So we at the FBI are taking both forms of domestic terrorism extremely seriously, and I appreciate your interest.
Are you aware of any of those individuals being in solitary confinement?
Well, again, same answer as in connection with the January 6th arrests. I just
All right,
don't-
Director Wray, thank you. I get the point. I'd love to ask about the Durham report, the Hunter Biden laptop, Hunter's business dealings in China, and a host of other things. But my time has expired. I will wrap up, but I would urge this Democratic leadership to hold hearings on the riots that took place across this country last summer. I yield back.